Minister, I want to welcome the opportunity to speak on some of the measures outlined here earlier today. However, I also think that it is important to highlight what did not happen today. For me, this is the budget of a government that lost its nerve, a budget of half measures and lip service. Yes, the income disregard for the carers payment will increase to €1,000 for a single person and to €2,000 for a couple. And yes, the domiciliary care allowance will also go up €20 to €380 per month, and that's certainly welcome, but they're very, very small measures. Unfortunately, yet again, government has been found wanting in political courage with respect to the abolition of the means test for carers. Carers save this state billions of euro every year, and we'd be absolutely lost without them. I think the care they provide and the dedication and commitment, it needs to be rewarded, and I feel that the fairest way to do it is to abolish the means test. And it is disappointing to see that, yet again, that hasn't happened in this budget. And I just think also that, the carers desperately need our support, and as I say, it has to happen. And hopefully this time next year we'll be here and we will hear that it will be abolished. The same attitude is found, I feel, in the decision to reduce the VAT rate to 9%. While this is welcome and certainly something I raised in this chamber many times over the last number of years, I think that the delay in terms of its implementation will certainly drive some businesses to the wall. I think that leaving them so long to wait until July is just incomprehensible. And I know from my own constituency of County Offaly, we have restaurants, cafes, hair salons, and they're just clinging on. They're hanging on by a mere thread. I think that decision to leave it till July needs to be reversed, and that decision in terms of the VAT rate being reduced to 9% needs to happen immediately in order to save businesses and save jobs. Instead of the immediate relief, the businesses got the continuation of imminent threats, and instead of a helping hand, they got an iron punch from Pascal, even if it did come in a velvet glove. And this is not what these businesses needed. Government has to, as I say, rethink this, and we have to have the measure kick in as soon as possible. In terms of agriculture, the backbone of the national and indeed of County Offaly's economy, employing 10% of the national workforce, I do accept that some positive steps have been taken. Generational renewal, tax relief from farm consolidation, young farmer relief out to 2029, the widening of the scope of farm restructuring relief to include forestry, and the acceleration of capital allowance for slurry storage are all certainly very welcome. But there has been a notable emphasis on extensions rather than on transformative investment into the agriculture sector. There's also a strong suggestion that these measures inadequately address succession planning, and the active farmer test extension to donors deters non-farming heirs, potentially forcing the sales of viable holdings to cover liabilities exceeding €335,000 thresholds. With farm incomes down year on year, low-income family farms, comprising of about 60% of Offaly's 4,000 holdings, yet again faced squeezed margins about enhanced basic income support. I agree with the analysis offered by IFA Farm Business Chair Bill O'Keefe, who said that while the renewal of the various tax reliefs was extremely important, some of the taxation changes and measures will be costly for farmers. He added that the reduction in the flat rate addition for VAT will cost farmers over €61 million this year. The decision to kick the rezoned land tax issue down the road, it creates more uncertainty for farmers, and they really don't need that uncertainty, especially when they're being impacted by this fundamentally unfair tax. I want to also mention the increase to the school capitation grant. This will include, on a per pupil basis, €50 for primary and special schools, from €224 to €274, and €20 for post-primary schools, from €386 to €406. I also welcome a decision by the Department of Education in terms of the 1.6 billion capital allocation for 2026 to progress delivery of over 300 school building projects. However, I take real issue with the claim that the majority of these are expected to be completed in 2026 and 2027. In my own constituency, we have St Brendan's Community School in Barr, and it had its works approved in 2018, 7 years ago. And there's neither sight nor sound of a contractor. So it needs to change. We need urgent action. And I'm calling here tonight on the Minister to ensure that she takes action in terms of St Brendan's Community School in Barr. In terms of carbon tax, from the 8th of October, the rate of carbon tax for petrol and diesel will increase from €63.50 to €71 per tonne. This increase will apply to all other fuels from the 1st of May 2026. Carbon tax total allocation. In terms of what we have in 2025, 951 million was allocated from carbon tax revenues, an increase of 163 million from 2024. And that brings me on to my next point. It's very disappointing to see that the haulage sector did not receive support in this year's budget. The haulage sector is a vital cog in the wheel of our economy, and I know the IRHA President, Ger Hyland, has called on numerous occasions for small basic measures such as the subsidisation of HVO to be made a priority by government in this budget. And when we look at the HVO, it's 20% more costly per litre than a litre of diesel. So if government is serious about the environment, why is HVO not subsidised for the haulage sector? That's the question I have here tonight, especially when we look at the takings that I'm looking at in terms of carbon tax. I mean, it makes no sense that you wouldn't support a sector that's already supporting our economy. So I hope that that will be looked at and that support will be given to the haulage sector, which is currently crippled by yet again another increase in carbon tax and obviously extortionate tolls, absolutely extortionate tolls, and that issue needs to be tackled also. I'll conclude on this point, and it is that if government is not going to take robust measures in order to tackle and limit illegal immigration and the multi-billion euro costs, then the budgetary process will amount to nothing but a bad joke. Illegal immigration has to be tackled. The multi-billion euro costs that are put on the heads of taxpayers has to be tackled. This issue is going on for too long, and it's putting huge pressure on our health system, on our education system, and we have our housing in deep crisis, and it's been made much worse because obviously we have a case where supply is exceeding demand. But we have to take on the whole issue of illegal immigration and make sure that we adopt robust measures urgently. Garv Magat.